Hey guys, who wants to play my favorite game? Throw fireballs at Shadowheart! Well, what the fuck? Look, I don't know what I'm doing. I just wanted to cast a load of spells at the start of the video, you know? I'm gonna move on now. Hello, my fellow true souls, and welcome as we talk the 10, also there's a few more as well, best spells in Baldurs Gate 3 that I think everyone should take, should use, that you can't go wrong with, that will just work brilliantly in every situation, both in and out of combat. Now, there is a few caveats to this. Firstly, there is a lot of spells, and there are plenty of good ones that won't appear here, but I wanted to keep it, you know, straightforward. And secondly, I will be focusing on spells that I can reasonably expect you to have access to in Act 1 and level 7 and under, so we won't go above 4th level spells, and I will be keeping it focused on Cleric, Wizard, and Warlock, as Shadowheart, Gale, and will be, you know, there for you. Also, there'll be a bit of sorcery stuff, because there's an overlap, and that's the class that I'm playing, so I can add a little bit of insight there, but yeah, don't expect to see Druid stuff here, though that does come into play later, and I do plan on making a more endgame version of this, really going into everything, but for now, this will more than get you started on the ways of the weave when it comes to your journey in Baldurs Gate 3. So you get to the point, right, where you level up. For example, I'm now 7 on my Sorcerer, and you excitedly go to your spells, and then it's just this wall of options, and you've probably read most of them, if not all of them, and you've considered them at previous levels, but you've now unlocked level 4 spells, and there really is a lot of potential here, and synergies and uses that you might not realize, and some of the spells are actually quite bait because they sound great, but in reality they're pretty terrible, and some are surprisingly awesome, and you might be feeling just a little bit confusion. Well, that's kind of what I want to answer today with, you know, the 10, it's probably closer to like 20, best spells that generally you want when they become available, because they're just always fantastic. So before we start counting them down, as it were, I do want to throw in an instant bonus pick, because it's something that's very boring, but perhaps one of the most impactful things you can have going, and that is guidance. The ability to, with a simple cantrip, give a 1d4 to any ability check on any character, as long as you've got Shadowheart / a Cleric with it in the party. Trying to convince someone, intimidate, etc. Guidance, add a 1d4. Trying to kick down a door with strength, guidance, add a 1d4. Lockpicking with your dexterity, 1d4. So on and so forth. It is just so valuable and malleable to always be able to rely on a little bit extra, even if you otherwise don't have any way to make a check that you're currently on easier, and it's just free, because it's a cantrip, and you might as well have it, and apparently my character gets really excited when I start casting guidance. Why did they run around in a circle? And it's just useful to have a background effect that I think every party should have in their back pocket. Beginning with number 10 then is a pair of cantrips, and the reason it's a pair is thusly. Firebolt, the most damaging basic cantrip that will scale as you level up, starts as 1 to 20, 1d10, goes to 2d10, and so on and so forth, and will be your just reliable, free, infinite damage spammer on anyone that can learn it. It's really, really reliable, and something that should be there if you need regular damage without using a spell slot. I don't have much chance of hitting Shadowheart here, but hey, we can set Gale on fire! Or not. After that then, I want to talk specifically Eldritch Blast as the true most damaging cantrip. It looks incredible, and as a Warlock, it is going to be your source of damage, as your spell slots aren't many, and should be used on more significant things than just bursts of damage. But once you get agonizing at level 2, well, it means that it starts to really hit hard by gaining your charisma modifier. So if you you are someone that either dips into Warlock as a multi-class just to level 2 to get Eldritch Blast and Agonizing to get a really reliable, good source of damage that is very malleable in how it's used, because you can target the beams separately, you'll get more and more beams as you level up, you can have the repelling blast so it creates some space when you hit someone with it, like so, which is just awesome, and it really is phenomenal. You can also get the feat that lets you dip into Warlock and get a cantrip, which also lets you then get Eldritch Blast, but without Agonizing Blast, it's not actually more damage than Firebolt, it's just a bit more utility filled because you can target the beam separately. Then we move on to number 9. But essentially, between Firebolt and your Eldritch Blast, you will not get more damage per turn out of a cantrip in the game, and that's worth pointing out. After that then, we jump over to Shadowheart for, well, this spiritual weapon. A bonus action, so you can do it on top of, your normal what you want to do that turn, and you select the weapon you want to summon. For example, the sword will have Lacerate, and the others will have their own unique abilities too, all doing force damage. You can summon it massively far away, so if an enemy's just stood there, you plop a giant glowing greatsword on their face, and then it's that greatsword's turn with its own initiative, and then you lacerate them, you attack them, you get the extra damage in. But it's way more than that. This is its own entity with health, which means enemies will try and kill it, and if they're killing this, they're not killing you, and that is self-explanatory how helpful that is. The more guys you have on your side, the more you can spread out damage, and on higher difficulties, that can be the difference between succeeding or failing a fight. More free damage every turn, more damage sponging, it's a bonus action, it's only a level 2 spell, it is just one of the best things you can take if you have access to it. Past that then, at number 7, I want to talk about polymorph. This one is... I just want to point it out because CC in general is obviously amazing in a game where every turn matters so much, and polymorph is really quite a particularly, at least in my mind, good one. Normally concentration stuff has to be very good to be worth it, because it's very easy to get your concentration broken if you don't have a feat like Warcaster to help out with that, so you have to get some significance. But if you can just walk into a room and then polymorph the main big bad guy, and he's now a sheep for 5 turns, not contributing, not helping while you clear up all of his minions, you're basically going to win the fight. And that is a really good use of a 4th level spell slot. If you use your 4th level just to do loads of damage, that's nice and everything, but you kinda not got the utility from it. And then, as a sheep, obviously, you can just blast them, and they can't really do anything about it because they're a sheep. It'll take them out of it, but it's a free big hit with whatever move you choose to break it, and I think it's definitely a considerably good choice when you start to approach those 4th level spells. Then let's just talk damage, right? Just some big old efficient damage, boys. You know Fireball, but it must be said, it is taking the first of this joint 7th place spot, a big area, you can upcast it for even more damage, and it just is ultra effective at what it does, especially on Sorcerer, where you can then quicken and do 2 fireballs in 1 turn. That just cleaves down an entire group of enemies near instantly, but you are going to find fewer just purely good, I want to make thing die spells. And then we'll hop over to Mr. Gale here for Lightning Bolt, the same damage roll as a Fireball, but, lightning instead of fire, and a line shape instead of circle. It's not quite as useful as shape, but in a lot of situations it can be the better choice than Fireball, and if you have multiple casters and you can afford to use multiple level 3 spell selections on damage, Lightning Bolt is the other really good one to take, and it doesn't hurt that it looks awesome. Before we move on, I do want to point out though that while I am telling you, the kind of min-max highlights here, there's still so many good spells and ways to use them in this game, and I really would encourage you to experiment. Even the classic Divinity-esque, create water, freeze it with a ray of frost, and now when someone walks over it, they can slip on the ice. Of course, I saved, but that will also knock them prone and stop their concentration, which is a really cool way to use that combination of abilities. There's also things like just knock, where you unlock a chest or a door if it's not magic. Saves you lock picking, saves you rolling it, saves you wasting tools and time. Just cast this and open she is. It's really very useful, especially in a pinch. In any case, let's move on from big level 3 damaging spells to your level 1 damaging spells, which are still very important because you have a lot of level 1 spell slots, and early on this is just what you will do. Definitely Magic Missile. It is one of the best spells in D&D and in Baldurs Gate 3 too. The fact that it cannot miss outside of, if they have the counter armor buff to it, is ludicrously good in a game all about dice rolls giving you a chance to miss. If someone is low, an important enemy is low, or they're running away to fetch the guards, or they're counting up to something and you need them to die, you can't do better than being able to make sure there is no RNG in them going down. You just click and it happens. The multi-targeting, the ability to turn it up as many spell slots higher as you need to amp the damage, it's just so useful and filled with flexibility that you really need, especially for a level 1. The other one that takes the joint rank here is Chromatic Orb at 6. This is just a really high damaging spell for a level 1 spell. 3 to 24 is very good. It has the utility of being able to create surfaces of your choice, which you can then dip into or combo with things and so on and so forth, but the pure damage thunder version is just really good and is a neat way to get a key target down, especially early on, and worth having around for that purpose when you want to do a little bit more than just your cantrip. Obviously, once your cantrip scales up and it's now at 2 to 20, this starts to look less exciting to use a slot on, but early on, Chromatic Orb really is MVP for just killing things quickly. Then, at number 5, it's Counterspell. Sorry, I tried to say counterspell. You get it? Because I'm being counterspelled. It's counterspell! That old, faithful, that legendary ability that creates so many cool moments of drama in D&D where a key counterspell at a key time saves the day. You know what I'm talking about. The ability to just say no to an opponent's cast. But the thing is, it's even better in Baldur's Gate 3. Because in D&D, the NPC that your DM's telling you about might be casting something, but you don't know what they're casting unless you pass a check to identify it, or you already know for some reason. You just know they're casting a spell, and you can opt to counter it, and that might be worthwhile, you might waste it. Whereas in Baldur's Gate, because it's a game, it has to pop up offering you the choice, and in doing so, it tells you what the spell it is and who it's being cast at. So you can check exactly the details of what you might counterspell before committing to do so, which makes it really potent, not just for stopping it if you need to, but just for information on what's happening and what your enemy spellcasters are doing to you. It is just beyond good to be able to say no regularly to enemy potent bits of magic, and it's obvious why that is. After that, we head to Conjuring Minor Elemental. I should say that this I'm using as a just summoning things is amazing, like the spiritual weapon, but Minor Elemental is a level 4 spell, summons you something, well, a little bit more potent. And, for example, the Aza here, if we bring it out, is that potent. He's a very chunky boy with a good amount of health, a glorious flaming beard, and the ability to do a hell ton of damage. It just gives you essentially an extra mini party member, and while that is great for the many reasons I said the spiritual weapon was great, in this instance it's even better. He's going to be harder to kill, so enemies will waste more time killing him. He's going to contribute more damage, so, well, he will kill more things, and he is just ultra useful to have around. around, on top of him having actually the ability to knock things prone. He can set things on fire, he can daze, and he can do all sorts of helpful little debuffs and chaos on the battlefield that you want him to. And the thing is, until he's actually removed or killed, you can just kind of keep using him battle to battle as you explore, even giving him his useful moves back on a short rest. So it's a really long-lasting, good use of a high-level one-and-done spell slot that you get multiple instances of value out, which is what you want the higher up the spell slots that you go. So, coming in at number 3, we have this little gem, Spirit Guardians. God, I love this. It is concentration, and I feel like it's often underappreciated. You want it on someone who is unlikely to get hit, like my shadow out here, on 20 AC, and of course if you get Warcaster 2, but what this will make happen is for 10 turns, and you can choose either Necrotic or Radiant. If you're fighting undead, choosing Radiant turns whoever this is on into just a dead disintegrator just by moving around. But you cast it, and then you get this lovely aura of your Spirit Guardians. If any enemy runs into them, they have to roll the save and take the damage. But similarly, if you run into the enemy, they will roll and take the damage. So you can damage people with this by just moving around the battlefield, which is so helpful in a game like this where positioning and movement is so critical in your choices and what you do. On top of it just being really respectable, good damage, and it's long-lasting every single turn. For as long as you keep concentrating, this is going to keep ticking, and you're going to keep running around, you're going to keep hitting people with it, and it gets so much value. There is fewer, more valuable, and easy to apply sources of consistent damage, just full stop, and I cannot recommend it enough. Then after that, we're going to look at some movement. I was almost going to put Gaseous Form here, as it's very fun utility-wise, lets you fly across gaps or go in small spaces, but I think the kings of movement are Misty Step as a bonus action and only a level 2 spell, the fact that you can just reposition so far and easily in combat, appear next to someone and get on them, the fact that you can find this on magic items to give it to your fighters, to your barbarians, to your close range guys, so they can take advantage of it too. It's just so good. And the bonus action, so you don't have to waste your entire turn in doing it. It's a get out of jail free card if you're in danger. It's a get into danger free card if you like to be in the thick of it. And it's just unbelievably good outside of combat too for getting into locked rooms, because you can just teleport through the door across gaps that otherwise might be a puzzle to solve. You can break parts of the game, and that is very satisfying in its own right. The other one to mention is Dimensional Door. This lets you and an extra ally of your choice just massively travel and appear wherever you need to be. Now, of course, bringing someone with you has a lot of advantages that just going by yourself with Misty Step doesn't. And imagine if you have Spirit Guardians on and you take that character and you teleport them on top of a group of enemies. Now they're all going to take Spirit Guardians damage, so you can kind of turn your allies into bombs. No offense, Gale. And that is a really neat way of using it, on top of it just being massively far effective transport, especially on a Warlock who can do it twice per short rest as he gets his spell slots back. So that is one to be aware of, and again, you can use it to break various parts of the game too. And then lastly, at number 1, the single best spell in the game, and I think it's hard to argue against it because it's just so good. Honestly, it's too good with how they've implemented it in Baldurs Gate 3. It is haste. The ability to have 2 turns a turn for 10 turns, that speaks for itself. A fight doesn't usually last anywhere near 10 turns, so this is just for the entire battle, have double turns. You have a fighter that can attack twice, and now it's hasted, so it can attack 4 times, and bonus action, you just pump out so much damage. And giving it to a caster means you can, in one turn, do, for example, an Eldritch Blast, and then we can start dimensioning Gore out of here with our second action, because we're hasted, and you can kind of retreat, fire, retreat, fire, retreat, fire in single turns. And on Sorcerer, being able to twinned spell, so you take haste, and then you put it on 2 of your extra allies, even putting it on the summon from earlier, so now he, when we go into turn-based mode, can run up to someone and do your big old hit, and then on top of that do your next one too, and it's just so useful. Sorry, Will, I need to have examples here. Yeah, I really don't need to convince you that giving a ally, or 2 of them on Sorcerer, 10 turns of double turns is one of the best things that is possible to be achieved in the entirety of this game, combat effectiveness wise. So there you have it. That is my round up, round down of 10 and a lot more spells that I think are all unbelievably solid in many situations, and you will never regret having any of them on your bars ready to be accessed, and you will do very well because of it. And yes, as I said at the start, tailored to your companions more than anything, as they will dictate your access of spell pools. Yes, you can respect them, but I feel like for story, lore, RPG reasons, not many people will do that, because it's weird to take, Shadowheart, who is a whole Shah storyline, Cleric, that kind of conflict, and then make a Druid in bear form. That just seems a little bit weird to me, and I would never do it, but hey, obviously you can if you want to, but you know what I'm saying. In any case, I hope this helps give you a little bit of direction across multiple classes over what's worth taking and using. For now then, stick around for many more Baldurs Gate 3 and lots of other good stuff on the channel. Thank you very much for watching. Like if you did enjoy it, subscribe for more, and consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.